Hi Wikia, I'm Sid Meier. I'm here to answer your questions, so let's go. The role of story in games is really interesting. In the games that we put together, we really like to allow the player to create their own story. For example, in a game like Civilization, where you're experiencing an adventure that lasts thousands of years, that really is a story that you yourself have created. And our goal is really to put the player in the starring role and allow them to create whatever story they want to create in the game. I think one of the really interesting things that's happening in gaming today is the ability for players to work together to create their own stories. I think Minecraft is a great example. My 10-year-old nieces love playing that game. They've built their own houses, they've built their own mountain ranges, they built a world that they can live in, and they have a bunch of stories that go along with that world. And that's really a development that we're seeing more and more of, players getting together in a cooperative way to create brand new stories. The game Civilization tried to take a very detailed, elaborate topic and boil it down to the essentials. And the mantra, the lesson that we learned from Civilization was really that a bunch of very simple systems working together can create an interesting kind of complexity. A game like Civilization, the military system, the diplomatic system, the economic system is simple, the growth system is simple, the exploration system is simple, the rules are pretty simple. But the way they all work together and interact give you a never-ending series of interesting decisions, which is really the core of a game like Civilization. I think every game goes through something we call a valley of despair. It's a time about halfway to two-thirds of the way through a game where it's just not quite fun yet. The interface doesn't work. People to try to play it and they say, I don't get it, I don't understand it, it's not fun. As a designer, you really have to kind of keep the vision, keep the faith, and keep plugging in your game and believe that your core idea, the fantasy that you're trying to create, is eventually going to be fun. But the most painful part of gaming, I think, is that time in the middle where you've spent a lot of time on it already. You don't want to give up on it, but it's not quite fun yet. One of the things that keeps me still excited to come to work after 20+ years is the advancement of technology. Every year there's something new, it's a new platform, a new technology to make games on. And what's really changed the least in our industry, I think, is game design. Technology has advanced, the internet, multiplayer, all these colors we now have to work with, and sounds, and huge teams. I mean, that's a difference from where we were in the early days. But the fundamentals of game design actually are still pretty much the same. When I started, we had our 10 rules of game design. Those rules actually still apply today. So the technology kind of energizes us, gives us new ways of making games, but the core ideas, I think, are still actually pretty sound. At Firaxis, most of our designers are also programmers. We find that it's a real time savings to have the same person who kind of had the idea actually implement it. There are a lot of advantages to that. One, the idea is implemented correctly. Another one is you kind of can take some more chances. Like, I'm very hesitant to waste somebody else's time with an idea that I'm not sure if it's going to work or not. But if I'm going to do it myself, I'm comfortable doing that. I'm only wasting my own time if it doesn't work out. And if it does work, then the game is better for it. So the roles of creative designer, developer, are really people who are both doing game design and actually implementing on a lot of those ideas from the programming side. And we found that to be a very efficient and effective way of having the design understand the programming, and the programming reflect the design accurately. Our connection with the player has really evolved over the years. I remember in the early days we would put a game on a floppy disk and send it out, and Probably weeks later, we'd start to get a trickle of letters back, and I kind of liked your game. Here's what I would have changed, etc. Today we get instant feedback. Even before we release the game, there's an alpha out there, there's something. So we have a much closer relationship with our players. I remember with Civ 2, it was the first game that had modding in it, and that really changed the landscape of gaming. Civ 2 was out there for many, many years, primarily because the community embraced it and made it a much better game than it was when it originally came out. So we have a very positive and symbiotic relationship with our players, I think. I really enjoyed doing a boot camp at the University of Michigan a couple years back, which was a 2-week intensive program, day and night, for game development. We had about 20 people there, students and recent students, and they all ended up making a game. We talked, we had lectures. I got to interact with the young next generation of designers. That was a lot of fun. We may do that again in the future to see how our schedules come together. Civ has actually remained true to its core over the years. What technology has allowed us to do is really strengthen, for example, the multiplayer aspect of it. It's allowed us to bring in the community, to create mods, new scenarios. It's allowed us to bring out additional content, downloadable content, new civilizations, new maps, new scenarios, etc. So it's allowed us to kind of strengthen the game and beef it up. But at its core, Civ is a set of ideas that just seem to work well. And the technology just kind of allows us to build on that and just add more and more features to it. A lot of young designers will ask me, how do I get into the industry? There are a couple of channels that I think I've seen work. If you can create a game on your own, do that. Submit it to the iTunes store, wherever. Put it out there on the web, get it out in front of people. If you're just a designer, but maybe you don't have all the skills to put an entire game together, kind of get your foot in the door in a computer gaming company. What is your skill? A lot of companies are looking for play testers. I mean, that's an entry-level job, but a lot of our designers started off as play testers and came to meetings and had great ideas, and we said, hey, you should be a game designer. Look at what's being hired. If you have a skill like art or programming or production or project management, there are ways to get involved in a game company. And once you're there, you'll be involved in the meetings and you'll have an opportunity to kind of present your design ideas. If they're good, you might get to become a game designer. The one game that I'd really like to make that I haven't been able to make yet is a really cool dinosaur game. I've tried it once or twice. I just couldn't figure out how to kind of bring that really cool fantasy of dinosaurs to life and make it fun. But I haven't given up, and someday I'd love to make that game.